We tend to think of our lives as this series of big events, right? We live from one thing to the next. But what about all those spaces in between? Today, we're diving into this really beautiful and kind of strange text called The Interval Where the Hand Was. And its whole argument is that maybe, just maybe, the most important parts of life actually happen in those pauses we barely even notice.
So right from the get-go, the text hits us with this powerful idea. Before the cup, in this gap, the cup exists more fully than it ever will in the hand. Think about that. It's saying that the potential of something, that moment just before it's grabbed, before it's defined, is its most complete, most perfect state. It's this gap, this interval, that we're going to explore together.
All right, section 1 is called The Interval Before the Cup. This is where we're really going to dive into those moments of almost there, the ones that are happening all the time but just fly under our radar. And it turns out the ancient Greeks actually had a word for this, kairos. Now, as you can see, this has nothing to do with clock time, with seconds and minutes ticking by. No, this is about being time. It's a moment that has its own texture, its own weight, and that's the kind of time we're really interested in here.
And this is just a brilliant way to put it. Most lives happen in holding. Think about your own day. How much time do you spend actually drinking the coffee versus just holding the cup? Life happens in that quiet, suspended moment while the heat is leaving the mug and we're just there. It's happening all the time.
Okay, let's move on to section 2, the practice of attending. Here we get introduced to our main character, a woman named Ines, and we learn how a simple crack in a wall becomes her teacher for this really unique daily practice.
So this is super important. Ines doesn't meditate, she attends. And that's a crucial difference. Meditation is often about turning inward, trying to achieve a result, calm, focus, whatever it is. But attending, as it's described here, is the opposite. It's about looking outward. It's about being intimate with what's actually there, like that crack in the wall, with no goal, no agenda. In a world totally obsessed with results, that is a radical act. And here's where things get, well, really mysterious and kind of beautiful. It's not a one-way street. The crack attends the wall, she attends the crack, and then something else attends her. It suggests this world where attention isn't just something we do, but it's this active mutual force. Wild, right?
So, section 3. This is an archive of gaps. And this is where Ines's personal practice starts to bleed into her professional life. She's an archivist, and she starts to see that the real history isn't in the documents she's filing, but in everything that's missing between them.
Just look at the kind of stuff she's dealing with every day. Birth certificates, death certificates, but also 47 letters about a single park bench, 7 photos of a totally empty room, wheels that just stop mid-sentence. She has this profound realization that the documents aren't the story. They're just the leftover debris from the real story, which happened in the gaps.
And then one day, this happens. A single page shows up. No folder, no file number, no category. It's a complete anomaly. It's a piece of the past that just refuses to fit into the system designed to contain it. And this is what's written on it from some anonymous person back in 1847. The water is heavier. Nothing has changed except everything. I will note this and move on. It's this incredible paradox, right? This person is observing a real change, but it's a change that can't be measured by any instrument. It's a change that only exists in the act of watching. So this leads to the central question of this whole thing, right? If our usual tools, science, data, metrics, can't capture a certain kind of change, then what can? How in the world do you document something that exists only in that quiet, personal, unverifiable act of seeing?
All right, section 4 is called The Page as Companion. And this is where that strange, unfiled document starts to transform for Ines. It stops being an object to be studied and starts to feel, well, like something that's looking back at her.
And this is such a huge shift in thinking for an archivist. Her whole job is about control, about categorizing and having power over information. But she completely rejects that. She takes the page home, not to file it or own it, but simply to be with it. She wants companionship with it.
And then, get this, she finds out she's not alone in this. Her neighbor, Tomasz, tells her his grandmother did the same thing. She kept one single piece of paper on her table, and she called it her companion. This is the first hint that what Ines is doing is part of some quiet, hidden tradition.
Which brings us perfectly into our 5th section, a chain of watchers.
The story widens here, from just Ines to this secret history, this long line of people who see the world in this very specific, very quiet way.
This timeline just lays it out so perfectly. You've got a monk in the 13th century who says he's learned nothing that can be transmitted. You've got our administrator from 1847. You've got Ines, today. And it even gestures toward the future. They're all connected, not by an organization, but by the shared practice of watching.
And here's the kicker. What holds this whole chain together isn't some secret knowledge or a set of beliefs. It's the shared action. It's the simple act of attending, of seeing, of staying in that gap. It's a tradition held together by doing, not knowing.
Okay, so let's wrap our heads around this. What does it actually mean to live in this interval? How do you apply this strange, quiet practice to your own life, especially today, when everything moves a million miles an hour?
The text really boils it down to a few core ideas, a kind of practice. First, observe things without feeling the need to measure them. Second, really pay attention to the spaces between the big events. Third, and this is a big one, just accept that not knowing is a perfectly valid way to be. And finally, trust that the simple act of seeing, of attending, is enough. It has its own value.
And I want to leave you with this one last quote from the source because it's just so perfect. The problem with documentation is that it presumes events have edges. They do not. An event is a bruise on time. It's a reminder that life isn't a series of neat folders. It's messy, it fades, it changes color, and it sinks into us in ways we can't always see or define.
So Ines' story might have an end, but the practice itself doesn't. The work she rediscovered goes on. That chain of watchers, it continues.
And that really leaves you, with this final question to chew on. What is it in your own world that you see, but that you can't measure? What changes do you notice that won't show up on a chart or a spreadsheet? And what would happen if you just attended to them?